The IS-7 is the #1 performing tier 10 in the game, and that's down to its ridiculously troll armor profile. The sides on the IS-7 are exactly like shooting at a 2.52 down at tier 8. Half the time you're gonna pen, half the time you're not. And if you're across the map, let's say you're on Castilla Hill trying to shoot one on the other side, oh boy, you might as well just not even shoot at the side of an IS-7 because it's just not gonna pen most of the time. But it seems like Wargaming has caught on to this and they are nerfing a bit of the statistics on the IS-7 in update 9.1. First of all, its dispersion at 100 meters is getting worse. It's currently sitting at 0.362, and next update it's going to be sitting at 0.371. I already dislike the dispersion on the IS-7 gun. It misses a lot of very easy shots that a 5A would laugh at. And now that the 5A is getting a dispersion buff and the IS-7 is getting a dispersion nerf, oh boy, yeah, IS-7 is not going to be too enjoyable when it comes to its gun. Its durability is also being decreased, which is its hit point pool by 50 hit points, although that's really not a huge nerf. The traverse speed, however, is getting better. It seems like overall Wargaming is buffing a lot of the slower heavies traverse speed. The E100 is getting a traverse buff, the IS-7 is getting a traverse buff, even the WZ-113. So I feel like Wargaming's trying to make heaviers a little bit more maneuverable, dealing with mediums, but it's also going slower by 5 kilometers per hour. It used to go 50, now it's going to go 45, and the power to weight is also getting worse because its weight is being increased. So overall, I would say this is a nerf compared to a buff. The traverse speed's nice, but when the WZ-113's getting the traverse speed and the 5A's already got really good traverse speed, yeah, I mean, it's nice, but the IS-7 doesn't really need to thrive off its traverse speed. Its main thing is its armor. Now the armor is staying the same, but the fact that its gun is getting worse, oh man, and its top speed as well, meaning that it's not going to be able to get into position better, especially when we compare it to the IS-4, which is basically getting just flat buffs everywhere. Yeah, I mean, the IS-7 to me just seems like it's kind of worse now, especially because there's only one thing I've always really wanted buffed on the IS-7, and that's the pen. It's the exact same problem with the WZ-111 5A. To stay competitive in Tier 10, you need to have some sort of pen, because with vehicles like the Type 71 that now exist, how are you supposed to penetrate a Type 71 if your premium rounds literally cannot penetrate it when running enhanced armor? How are you supposed to deal with the 268 version 4 if you physically cannot pen the frontal armor of a 268 version 4 in a frontline heavy? That's a pretty big problem, and it's the biggest problem I've had with the 5A and the IS-7. Personally, I believe that if Wargaming wanted to go through those changes, I'm completely fine with it. But I also feel like the IS-7 needs 330mm of APCR pen, and that's exactly what the 5A should get as premium pen for standard as well. But unfortunately, it seems like Wargaming disagrees, and these heavies should suffer behind the pack. Either way, let's take a look at its statistics after the nerf. So it's going to have a power to weight ratio of 17.1 and a top speed of 45 kilometers per hour. And when it comes to the gun, as I said, its dispersion is 0.371. That's meaning when you're driving at full speed, your aiming circle is actually going to be larger, and fully aimed in, it's also going to be worse. So yeah, that's not great. Even with Cali, you only have around 318mm of pen. That's pretty poor. You're going to struggle with a lot of enemy opponents, especially the E100 next update, for example, when it's getting its increased 20mm of turret armor. You're basically going to have no chance of penetrating an E100 turrets. So that's a pretty big problem. So let's take a look at the IS-7 currently. We have a power to weight ratio of 18.0. So you can see the power to weight got quite a bit worse. And if we take a look at the gun, it's 0.362 dispersion. So yeah, the dispersion on the IS-7 is really not going to be anything to dream about. The problem for me personally, and I would say on behalf of a lot of great players in this game, is that the IS-7 struggles on the gun. Like, that's just a fact. It's got bad pen, it's got bad accuracy, and bad DPM. And you would say that the alpha is nice, but at the same time, honestly, I'd rather have less alpha. A Type 71, for example, misses a lot of shells, but because it's got such a low alpha compared to the IS-7, when you miss a shot, I mean, it's fine because you reload in a couple more seconds and you have another ready. When it comes to a vehicle like the IS-7, yeah, it's not necessarily the case. You miss a shell, now you've got to wait a little bit longer to get that shell back. Also, when it comes to the IS-7, I feel like the armor is really good for players that don't understand how to use it. As a good player, I know how to angle a tank. But when it comes to a pike nose vehicle, well, you know that whenever you try to side scrape with a pike nose, your pike actually becomes a flat angle, being easier to penetrate. I feel like the IS-7 just works really well for players that don't necessarily understand how to angle, pull out sideways, and just get magical bounces because of the IS-7 armor. So let's aim in on this 57 turret and fire. There you go, nice pen into his vehicle. We do have support from our team, which is good news, but I'm hoping that that support lasts long, because if it doesn't, we're going to fall apart very quickly. So let's get a nice pen into that IS-7's upper plate. That's a perfect example there of the pike nose when it's at an angle is very weak. So that's what you got to be careful about with the IS-7 is over angling that pike nose, which you can see we were trying to penetrate there, but we weren't able to connect a shot. Our 183 has impressively already bled a very large chunk of his hit point pool, but what we're going to do right now is ignore that IS-7, get a nice shot into the cron, and back in the cover. Nice. Okay, let's start reloading again. We've already been able to deal a decent chunk of damage. Now this is the kind of situation an IS-7 does well in, because its armor is pretty solid in a spot like this. That was just a slow turret reverse moment. IS-7 turret turns very, very slow, so when you try to snap shells with it, gotta be a little careful. So let's finish off this 57 heavy. There you go. And now we can make our way on up a little bit closer to the enemy IS-7. This guy is probably going to shoot within the next couple of seconds, and even if he doesn't, I mean, I don't even know what he's doing. He's dead. That is a player that does not understand how to use the IS-7. So now we can push over towards this side and start shooting shells into the enemy 183. So let's poke this very cautiously. There you go. Nice shot. We've been able to deal 2,300 damage so far. And, ooh, there's also a waffle. Now what I'm going to do is honestly not care about the waffle. I hate 183s. I hate them with all my life because they are the most annoying tank to fight in tier 10. So that's one shell into him, and in 5 more seconds we should have another shell. I don't really care about the waffle, and I don't care about you either, because you're gonna die. Hello, good sir. How do you feel about this? Oh, not very good. Well, that sucks for you. Goodbye. Goodbye. There you go. 183 is taken out. Now we're just going to over-angle our side so that hopefully the waffle bounces, but as you can see, he didn't. I don't understand this. A waffle with no spall knows exactly where to pen our IS-7. I feel like whenever I aim at IS-7s, they just get the best bounces in the world. And whenever the enemy uses, or whenever yeah, it just doesn't go well. Either way, let's just get a nice HE onto the cron. Cron does not do a very good job against high explosive shells, so if you shoot one right at the hull, most of the time you'll clear the tank. So, first battle, not bad at all. We were able to deal our job, get around 3,900 damage out, and showcase where the IS-7 can be a decent tank. But let's be real, is there a heavy that couldn't have done well there? I mean, if I was in an IS-4, obviously I would have done a pretty solid job there. If I was in a 50 TP at tier 9, I probably could have done just as good, because all you need to have is decent turret armor and the ability to hide your hull, and you'll do fine in an IS-7. Now, when it comes to this map, we've got a mouse and an E100. And, yeah, I was expecting that. It's always just common sense that some moron, I'm gonna call that guy a moron, because you're literally just YOLOing. I mean, the entire team is going up the hill, every single player, and this single mouse is YOLOing into B. I mean, clearly, this is just gonna be an L, if that's, you know, either way. I'm not even gonna bother to talk about that. Seems like somebody on the enemy team's doing it as well. But oh well, we're going to continue pushing in. They do have a Void player in the FE 2 and 5B, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But the player is in a 2 and 5B, which, you know, isn't necessarily the best of tier 10 heavy. So at the same time, I'm not super worried. Let's just keep on pushing up into the front line. We got the 4202 off to the side, who was able to connect a shell into our 57 heavy. And with that, we're going to get right over here. Nice. Okay, so the 2 and 5B actually got slabbered, which is great. And in this situation, I'm just trying to think of what we want to do. It seems like the entirety of the enemy team is not all up here, which is good news. So there you go. Nice shot into the Vickers. Not really sure why that guy fired an HE shell at me, but that's fine with me. I'm hoping that our Progetto is able to get some nice shells into that Vickers, because as you'll notice down low, the enemy team has also pushed some vehicles over there. So let's see if we can get a shell into this Vickers. Let's fire. I don't care if I get pens from these guys off to the side if I'm able to clear this Vickers light, because that's really the main nuisance. Now that the Vickers is dead, I'm able to push off to the side over here, and we can start to shoot at vehicles like this IS-4. Nice shot into the lower plate for 489. Now this is obviously where the alpha is nice. If you're able to connect a shell for 489 hit points into an enemy tank, and then also aim it again and bounce it, L, that's just dispersion moments, but that's the only thing that also sucks about the tank. See, we got a good and a bad at the same time, but I think we should be able to win this. So we got an E100 off to the side over here. Let's aim, and oh boy, that's the not so great pen, and that's the not so great accuracy. Look at that, perfect. Yeah, I just don't love this gun. If I was in a 5A, that most likely would have hit, but because I'm in an IS-7, that's just how the tank works. So let's see. Let's aim it on the YAG, aiming and fire. Yeah, there you go. I mean, I wanted to snap it because I also wanted to possibly bounce the shell from the YAG, which we were able to do. But I mean, we're just missing shells left, right, and center here. Let's aim in. Let's give it a decent chunk of time, and there you go. We were able to connect a shell, but at that point, that was the side of the YAG. So you can very easily see from how only about 200 meters away, the IS-7 gun just sucks. I mean, you're really not going to connect any shells from that far away. So what you want to do is be about this distance from your opponent, so where you can very easily pen them. So now we're doing a better job. We've been able to get out one shell onto these IS-7, and let's reload another. There you go. Nice tap again. We're up to 2800 damage dealt, and let's see if we can get one more shell into his tank. We got 3 more seconds left on our reload. 3, 2, 1, and oh, can't pen him there. Let's go for a shell. There you go, right into the lower plate. I was hoping he'd back up. Because I'm running rammer on this tank, you can't really penetrate the upper plate of an IS-7 with premium, but hey, able to do our job there. Able to get out around 3200 damage dealt, and yeah, so this is the yin and yang of the IS-7. Its gun sucks, and its gun's going to get worse, which is just going to make it less enjoyable for me, but the armor's staying the same. So overall, I would say that the tank's actually going to be just as fine as it was for any players that are doing okay in it now. Either way, hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.